These images are for visualization purposes. As you look at the following maps and pictures, consider the obvious relationship between the Middle East and Africa. Then reflect upon the impact that the Suez Canal, that tiny little artificial strip of water, has upon your perception of Africa and her boundaries. Imagine if you were making a map, and there was no Suez Canal. How would you draw Africa? Think about it. Prior to the opening of the Suez Canal, in 1869, which is essentially a man-made lake or body of water that extends from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean, the region of the world now known as the Middle East was actually considered a part of Africa. It was simply the northeasternmost corner of the continent of Africa. The modern state of Israel sits on the African plate. Next, I will reveal the Africa-Israel connection using the Scriptures of Truth. The 1611, King James Version Bible will be used. African Americans, grab your KJV Bible, take notes, pay close attention, this message is for you. The continent of Africa has always been a land of refuge for Israelites. The children of Israel returned to Africa around 721 BC. History tells us there was a massive return of the children of Israel into Egypt. According to Assyrian records, 27,280 Israelites were deported by Assyrians during the attack of Sargon II. The rest of the population returns to Africa. The assistance from Pharaoh So, king of Egypt, came late. We read that in 2 Kings chapter 17 verses 4 through 8, and Hosea chapter 7 verse 11. Hosea chapter 9 verse 3 says, "They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria." After Ephraim and the rest of the northern kingdom fled to Africa, the tribe of Judah remained. Even the kingdom of Judah later returned into Africa following the children of Israel that had already gone there. The first return of Judah to Africa was announced by the prophet Jeremiah. They were afraid of the Chaldeans who were attacking them. You will find this text in 2 Kings chapter 25 verse 26 and Jeremiah chapter 37 verse 8. Here is the campaign of King Nebuchadnezzar against Judah. Nebuchadnezzar came from the north, Judah fled south to Egypt. This took place in 598 BC. What happened at this time is that the elites of Judah were taken captive towards Babylon. Following this, there was also the second return of Judah towards Africa. History records that the elite class of Judah that returned to Jerusalem after their deportation to Babylon was once again attacked and they fled to Africa. This you will find in Jeremiah chapter 43 verses 5, 6, and 7. Tahpanhes and Pathros are practically around the same area. So the establishing of the Jews in Pathros was announced in Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 1. 2 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1 is an account of the Maccabees writing to the Jews that lived in Egypt. 2 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1 says, "The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace." The final return of Judah as a people to Africa. History records that the revolt of the Jews against Rome in the year 66 AD, pushed the Romans to destroy the temple and the holy city, in the year 70 AD. That marked the end of the kingdom of Judah and the presence of Israel in the Holy Land. Christ foretold the destruction of the Second Temple in Luke chapter 21 verses 20 through 24. In verse 21, Christ forewarned the Israelites to flee to the mountains, and that is referring to Egypt. The same way the angel told Joseph to take Christ and his mother and flee into Egypt in Matthew chapter 2 verse 13. We see in Egypt there was a territory that already had a large presence of Israel, in the area of Tahpanhes, and later where the people of Judah came to settle. The New Testament shows further migrations of where the Israelites dwelt and the lands they inhabited in Africa. We have already established that the Israelites were refugees in Egypt, which is Northeast Africa. Read Acts chapter 2, specifically verse 5 and 10. Verse 5 says, "And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven." Verse 10 says, "Phrygia, and Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes." Acts chapter 2 verse 10 proves Israelites dwelled beyond Egypt. Israelites penetrated the borders of Libya. Cyrene is Libya as well. We must go back to see how cartographers mapped the known world around this time to see the borders of ancient Libya and ancient Egypt. Look for recreations based on text left behind by thinkers such as Pythagoras, Herodotus, Aristotle, Hipparchus, Eratosthenes, Crates, and Archimedes. For that is how ancient cartographers passed on the legacy of their knowledge, handwritten textual directions of what the world looked like. We can honestly see that the historical idea of Libya is not as geographically limited as the modern idea of Libya. In ancient times the word Libya, or synonymously put, referred to the entire region of North Africa west of Egypt. Modern Africa with red highlight over area represented as Libya on ancient maps. This area today encompasses Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania, at a minimum. So far I have proven that in ancient times there once was a large Israelite population from Egypt to Libya. Ancient Libya is clearly understood to mean all of North Africa west of Egypt. Many of the Israelite communities located in the north and east of Africa began to become less populated and others disappeared altogether. The rise of Christianity in the 4th and 5th centuries CE and the rise of Islam in the 8th century CE caused the oppression, slavery and death of many non-converts. The Israelites, who were well known for non-compliance and defiance of forced religion, ideology and culture, were forced to migrate in effort to avoid Christian and Islamic persecution. The Arab, Islamic invasion of Northeast Africa prompted the migration of Israelites to flee to Central and West Africa. Zephaniah, chapter 3 verses 8 through 13. "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey, for my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord, to serve him with one consent. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me, for then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid." This was a prophecy for the latter days, prior to all nations on the earth being judged by the fierce anger of the living God. Specifically in verse 10 the God of Israel revealed to the prophet Zephaniah, that the Israelites would be dispersed beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, Cush. Zephaniah, chapter 3 verse 10. "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering." Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, Cush, refers to the Nile River and its branches, which are located in Africa. The world's longest river, The Nile winds 4,150 miles through northeastern Africa. The Israelites will return back to Israel from the lands beyond the Nile. The land of Cush was called the land of the blacks. It was located south of Egypt, corresponding roughly to Sudan. What's beyond the rivers of Cush? It's the inner parts of Africa. The Lost Tribes: a Myth, Suggestions Towards Rewriting Hebrew History. Author, Godby, Alan Howard. Published by Duke University Press, Durham, 1930. After page 256 there is a map of Israelites all throughout Africa. African slave trade. Blacks selling blacks into slavery. Historians will tell you that Europeans were not the only ones who participated in the African slave trade. They will tell you that black people sold black people to the Europeans. Both of these statements are true, but the latter is misleading. Blacks selling blacks into slavery is a vague statement, and does not give attention to national and ethnic origins and cultural differences between the two groups. One must go beyond the superficial, by examining the wordplay used by historians, which has confused the subject matter. Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans and Canaanites. Biblical scholars agree that Negroes are not descendants of Ham. There can only be 2 other possibilities: Shem or Japheth. Now we know there are 2 races of black people that look alike but they are different. The Hamitic and Shemitic people were virtually indistinguishable. Proof number 1. Joseph was Shemitic and he was mistaken for an Egyptian, Hamitic, by his own brothers in Genesis chapter 42 verses 7 and 8. Proof number 2. Moses was Shemitic and he was mistaken for an Egyptian, Hamitic, in Exodus chapter 2 verses 15 through 19. Proof number 3. The Apostle Paul was Shemitic and he was mistaken for an Egyptian, Hamitic, in Acts chapter 21 verses 37 through 39. Hamitic and Shemitic people looked practically identical, and there was some racial mixing. Read Genesis chapter 38. The 5 sons of Judah were born through native Canaanite women. 1. Who died, 2. Onan, who died, 3. Shelah, 4. Perez, 5. Zerah. Their mothers were all Canaanite women of southern Canaan. Judah's first 2 sons died. The descendants of Shelah, Perez, and Zerah were native-born Canaanites. One of the twins born to Tamar was Perez, who through Judah was in the direct line of the ancestry of David, and hence of Jesus Christ. You can read that in Matthew chapter 1 verses 3 through 6, and Luke chapter 3 verses 31 through 33. As plainly seen, Judah married and had offspring with Canaanite women from the south of Canaan. These facts concerning the origins of the tribe of Judah must honestly and humbly be faced by all today who claim roots in the tribe of Judah. Yes, the scriptures tell us that the foremothers of the tribe of Judah were in fact all Canaanite women of southern Canaan. The Israelite, Shemitic and Canaanite, Hamitic mixing continued. Judges chapter 3 verses 5 and 6 says, "And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, Hittites, and Amorites, and Perizzites, and Hivites, and Jebusites, and they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their mighty ones. In Luke chapter 21 verse 20, Christ foretold the destruction of Jerusalem. The year 70 AD marked the end of the kingdom of Judah and the presence of Israel in the Holy Land. After that, Luke chapter 21 verse 21, Christ forewarned Israelites to flee to the mountains, referring to Egypt, which is Africa. Why? As I have proven with scriptures, there were Israelite communities already dwelling in Africa. Also, Israelites could hide in Africa by blending in with the dark-skinned Hamitic people. Israelite communities in Africa were augmented by subsequent arrivals of Israelites after the destruction of the Second Temple, in Jerusalem, in 70 AD. Luke chapter 21 verse 24 says, "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." Only one race on earth can honestly say, their ancestors were led away as slaves into all nations. The curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26 became a reality for the Israelites in Africa, because of their disobedience to the Torah. The curses of the covenant are not confined to the land of Israel. Particular covenant curses will repeat themselves throughout the ages, as long as the children of Israel are in disobedience. Furthermore, they will be fulfilled in such a way that makes the condition of the children of Israel stand out before the nations. These curses are a sign, and a wonder, used to identify the true children of Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 25 says, "The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies, thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth." Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 32 says, "Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look, and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand." Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 41 says, "Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity." Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 45 and 46 says, "Moreover all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedst not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever." Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 64 says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." Egypt equals house of bondage. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 68 says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you." This curse was not about actual Egypt Mizraim. It doesn't fit all the criteria. Name the people that were taken into bondage with ships. When they reached their destination they were sold to their enemies as slave men and slave women, have never seen their homeland again, and were never redeemed. Descendants of the trans-Saharan slave trade, Indian Ocean slave trade, and transatlantic slave trade, fit this curse like a fingerprint. They are the only people waiting to be redeemed back to their own land, and no amount of money can buy them out of this condition. Egypt equals the house of bondage. For proof, read Exodus chapter 13 verse 3, Exodus chapter 13 verse 14, Exodus chapter 20 verse 2, Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 6, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 2, Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 14, Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 5, Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 10, Joshua chapter 24 verse 17, and Judges chapter 6 verse 8. Read Aquino's autobiography, The interesting narrative of the life of Olaudah or Gustavus the African, by Olaudah published in 1789. It is both chilling and informative. But for the researcher looking for clues to the true identity of the slaves, this primary source helps us to persist in the unfolding of a mystery, the Hebrewisms of the men, women and children known only as African slaves or Negroes, found in their names, customs, practices, and even their land, before the initiation and proliferation of the Atlantic slave trade. Equiano is from the Ebo tribe, one that exists today and recognized by many observers and commentators as being a lost tribe of Israel. Of the similarities in customs to the laws of Moses he writes, "I cannot forbear suggesting what has long struck me very forcibly, namely, the strong analogy which even by this sketch, imperfect as it is, appears to prevail in the manners and customs of my countrymen and those of the Jews, before they reached the land of promise, and particularly the patriarchs while they were yet in that pastoral state which is described in Genesis. Some of these similarities are found in their religious practices." Equiano cites their belief in one Creator of all things, the practice of circumcision, offerings and feasts according to the laws of Moses, and recalls, "Some of our offerings are eaten with bitter herbs." Joel chapter 3 verses 3 through 7 says, "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre, and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head." The physical descendants of the seed of Israel were destined to forget their identity. The blood descendants of Jacob would forget their heritage and be called everything except their ancient name Israel. God revealed it to the prophets all throughout the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 37 says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword, among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee." Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 26 says, "I said, I would scatter them into corners, I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men." God said He would make the remembrance of the Israelites cease from among men. How? By using other nations on the earth. Psalms chapter 83 verses 1 through 4 says, "Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee, have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Isaiah chapter 1 verses 3 and 4 says, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider." A sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters, they have forsaken the Lord, they have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger, they are gone away backward. Isaiah chapter 65 verse 15 says, "And ye shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen, for the Lord God shall slay thee, and call his servants by another name." Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 4 says, "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." Jeremiah chapter 23 verses 39 and 40 says, "Therefore, behold, I, even I, will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you, and the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence. And I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you, and a perpetual shame, which shall not be forgotten." Jeremiah chapter 24 verse 9 says, "And I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth for their hurt, to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse, in all places whither I shall drive them." Hosea chapter 1 verses 10 and 11 says, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass, that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel." Hosea chapter 4 verses 6 and 7 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. As they were increased, so they sinned against me, therefore will I change their glory into shame." Baruch chapter 2 verses 28, 29, and 30 says, "As thou spakest by thy servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him to write the law before the children of Israel, saying, If ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves." The book of Baruch is found in the Apocrypha. Christ acknowledged the identity theft of the blood descendants of the tribe of Judah, also known as Jews, in the book of Revelation. Christ knew people were going to masquerade as Judah. Revelation chapter 2 verse 9 says, "I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan." Revelation chapter 3 verse 9 says, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." The real descendants of Judah and Israel, are cursed, in poverty, are going through tribulation, and their national identity has been stolen. Christ reassured them, that they are rich, because the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the service of God, and all the promises belong to the real Israelites. Most African American Negro men and women lack a moral compass, and the love they are supposed to have for one another. Obedience to the Torah is the foundation to fixing their communities. According to the scriptures of truth, their nation, Israel, was cursed by the living God and driven from their birthplace due to disobeying the Torah. Torah teaches us to honor the old and wise, read, Leviticus chapter 19 verse 32. Love and brotherhood, read, Leviticus chapter 19 verses 13 through 18. Criminal laws, and so much more. Everyone should be able to agree on this. If a large percentage of African American men taught their children the laws day and night, as was commanded to their forefathers, and to fear God, a lot of their problems would be solved. Read Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7. Knowing history is not sufficient, living as members of a righteous community is our highest obligation. Read Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 1 through 7. Isaiah chapter 49 verse 15, says, "Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee." Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 7, says, "Therefore, now thus saith the Lord, the God of hosts, the God of Israel, wherefore commit ye this great evil against your souls, to cut off from you, man, and woman, child and suckling, out of Judah, to leave you none to remain." Job chapter 39 verse 16, says, "She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers, her labor is in vain without fear." Leviticus chapter 19 verse 17 and 18, says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him, Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, I am the Lord. Exodus chapter 20 verse 13, says, Thou shalt not kill.